Hello everybody, welcome to the shop and welcome to the Wood Mallet project. Today we're going to build this mallet. This is a project that my Woods 2 students do where I teach. Woodworking and industrial arts, and so this is the project that they get to do. So I'm just going to kind of explain how it is, roll in a lot of video, and as I was building this in my own shop, on this lathe right here, this is a 1950s Delta Homecraft wood lathe. And so as I was building it, lots and lots of footage and probably too much to make a video. So let's talk. So what we did was we started out with a wood blank. It's kind of funny that we take a round tree, make it into flat wood, and then we make a round again. But we start out with a square blank. And so my students have to machine that blank into a 3" by 3" by about 19 to 20 inch long piece of wood. After they do that, they have to come along and they have to mark the crosshairs to find the center for turning. At one end, it's just marked with a pencil. On the other end, we will mark the center, saw it in with a back saw, and that's where the spur will get driven in. Now once you get all that put in, spurs there, the markings are there, now we can walk over to the lathe. And at the lathe, we will mount it. We're going to put the tailstock in, make sure the tailstock and the spindle are tightened up. Spin it over by hand a little bit to make sure that things can spin freely. Then we're going to start using a gouge. And I did a lot of different footages, different angles here. Some worked better than others. Quite honestly, the camera was mostly in the way. But the big goal here was to take that 3" by 3" block of wood and make it round. Now in a perfect world, perfectly centered, this diameter would have ended up being 3 inches. I believe it's a little bit under. But we made it round. That was the first goal. After we got the whole thing so that it was round, I did come back with a skew and just smoothed it up a little bit on a little higher speed. And then I marked out 6 inches for the head. So I just measured over, marked 6 inches. Then I measured the thickness of this and I measured over, and that thickness, the handle had to fit inside the head of the mallet. So we had to also determine where that was going to be. And so once again, started shaping, removing a lot of wood to form this handle. And it seems a little ridiculous that we're removing that much wood. It's not efficient. If I was actually trying to make any kind of money at this project, it wouldn't be efficient. But for you as my student or for my students, it gives them a lot of time using the tools on this lathe. It gives them a lot of time adjusting the tool rest, and just adjusting. A lot of times it would take my students 2 to 3 class periods to complete the lathe portion of this project. So just reinforcement exercise, they figure out what is the fastest way to do something and most comfortable way. I think you guys get it. Time on the machine is how you get better. So once we did that, and we figured out that this piece right here is supposed to be 1 inch. So the portion, that little portion that is right next to the head, that's supposed to be 1 inch in diameter. Now I used a 1 inch Forstner bit to drill the hole, and everybody knows that 1 inch actually doesn't fit inside of 1 inch. So I did make it a little undersized. And then you see that I machined, or I turned on the lathe a small shoulder so that handle doesn't slide all the way through the head. And then I shaped that handle, came back with sandpaper, sanded everything real smooth. My next task was to actually mark the center of the 6-inch mallet. I went over to my drill press with that 1-inch Forstner bit. I used a small piece of piece of wood to go underneath it to act as a V-block, just so that I didn't drill into my table. I drilled that 1-inch hole. I came back over to my bandsaw, split those pieces. You know, you can see that mark right there. Split that right there. It's not perfectly centered, but I like having these machine marks. It tells that story, right? We split that, marked on the bandsaw, marked the end of that, split the handle, went in about 2/3 of that distance, and then I took a piece of scrap, small piece of wood, and throat plate, and I need to buy an aftermarket one that's a lot smaller because that little wedge did go down into that throat plate. Wait for everything to stop, pull it out, and then I was able to just go ahead, put glue around the tip of the handle, glue around the wedge. I made sure that my wedge is actually perpendicular. It's not perfect, but perpendicular to the head, the grain of the head. That way I wouldn't have any splitting going down this way. And then you just pound it home till it's good and tight. Little big handle, but it's pretty good. Now you probably don't need a drill press if you can drill straight. I get a little tired after drilling for a while, a 1-inch hole. So a lot of times I don't drill too straight. But if you could drill straight, you could do it. So that was the process of building the mallet. Spending time with the Wood Lathe was enjoyable. Spending time using my machines was enjoyable. But this is the process that my students use to build wood mallets. Most of the time, they come out pretty nice. And most of the time, they're very functional. And honestly, to build tools, I think is more valuable than building an end table. This is a tool that a student could use the rest of their life. So thanks for joining me, guys, and thanks for spending your time with me. Bye now.